Okay, I'm not gonna lie, y'all. This next one, it threw me for a loop and sent me down a rabbit hole that I was not expecting to go on. Well, hello, my silky friends. Let's start with what I found on TikTok, and then I will give you my personal experience that I completely forgot. This is insane. Okay, I have to turn the sound off, but it says a dog dare. The 80s and 90s gate program kids with once photographic memories to ask your parents or siblings about that one time you nearly drowned as a kid. And so I was like, okay, this is odd. What is the gate program? Then another video came up and it gets even worse.
Gifted and Talented program in the 90s. I was a part of the Gifted and Talented program in the 90s, and I just found my binder. The things I found. For starters, they had us doing worksheets in Morse code. Here's one of them. So they gave us at the top what the Morse code is, and then we had to fill out the rest of the worksheets to like make codes and messages and stuff in Morse code. A lot of our worksheets were about different codes. This one is literally called Codes to Crack. So you can see there, they gave us like 8 letters, and each of the columns is a different code. So for this one, there was 8 letters. They gave us the corresponding letters, and then we had to figure out the rest of the alphabet and fill in the rest of the column. But there's so much more. Like the stuff I found in there, I'm like, what were you training us for? Like, why was I 10 years old speaking Russian? It's cool, but I don't actually remember anything except that's my name. So I do remember that. I'll share more as I go through the whole thing, but it's like there's like hundreds of worksheets in there, so like it's gonna take me a minute.
Okay, I'm going to stop right here and I'm going to ask y'all a question because I started looking into the GATE program. It seems like, I don't know, the first thing about almost drowning, I started looking at the comments. And the GATE program went in the 70s, 80s, 90s. I don't know. Maybe it's called something else now, but it's Gifted and Talented, I don't know, something or other program. And I remember as a kid, and I think I was in junior high. I was somewhere around, I don't know, sixth, seventh grade when they pulled me out. I remember we had moved to a new place, and I liked the classroom that I was in very, very much. And for some reason, I knew that I was one of the smarter people in that class, but I loved my teacher and my classmates. So, I mean, it was fine. But they pulled me out one day without warning. A guy came in and he asked to test me. And I'm like, I didn't know what he was talking about. I spent like 2.5 days that I remember and just one on one with this guy in a room. And he would ask me questions. And then he would talk casually about some stuff. He was really trying to build a rapport. And I'm sure he listened to a lot of prattle that he didn't want to hear at that age. But I mean, just trying to build that relationship. And then he would ask me questions. What he was doing was an IQ test, which I didn't know until the end. And, he would ask me questions. He would, sometimes he would have me fill out a paper. But most of it was, I realize now because I've looked at some of the Mensa questions. If you don't know what Mensa is, anyway, it was kind of stuff like that. It was an IQ test, but I had never been tested before. So he would ask me, a series of things, and I would think about it for a second and answer him. And I didn't even want to. And I'd be like, oh, God, do I have to do this? Yes. He said, just try. You can do it. So we spent 2.5 days like this. And he began to tell me that he felt like I was being limited in the class that I was in, and that I should be moved to a different classroom, that I should be in the gifted program. And he said I should definitely be in a higher class, same grade, but a higher version of class, I guess, that they were teaching. It was a weird kind of school because I've never been in a school like that where they basically break you into the smart kids, the average kids, and the really dumb kids. I mean, but that's what they did. Um, and so he wanted to put me in the higher class, and he said in that class, he said, you will also have the opportunity to be in the gifted program. And I was like, "Oh, well, that sounded like fun." He said, "They yeah." He said, "You'll love it." He said, "They go on camping trips, like, they go here and there, and, um," he said, "I think you'd really enjoy it. You get to, meet new people." I was like, "Yeah, that sounds like fun." And then he said something about, the work is different, they're gonna be doing more work and learning more things, and I don't know, the way he described it, it's like I didn't like school. I didn't want to learn what they wanted to teach me. And I told him, I don't want to do that. Like, I don't want to be in the gifted program and have to do extra work on top of what I'm already doing. And he wanted to change my class. And I said, no, I don't want to move classes. I like where I'm at. And he was quite frustrated with me. But I completely refused to go into the gifted class or to go into a higher class. Now, I think out of anger, he moved me from my class, but he moved me to a more, I don't know, just kind of average, maybe a little bit above average class. Everybody was fairly intelligent in there. We didn't really have any, what I'd call slower people. But I just, I remember him being very disappointed that I flat out refused the gifted program. I didn't think any more about it. They told me, like, I'm not going to put my IQ score out here, but I will tell you they told me I was at genius level, and I'm thinking, how did you do this? And I'm like, I didn't actually take an IQ test, and he said, yeah, you did. All those questions I was asking you, that was your test. Like, okay, whatever. So my mom was beside herself. And so for the rest of my life, let me just tell you, it's not fun to be diagnosed that way because the rest of your life, for every dumb, stupid decision that you ever make, people are like, I thought you were a genius. I'm like, yeah, well, I am. I have no walking around sense. Okay. I can do something smart. I can think of something smart, but I have no common sense. All right. Does that make you happy? And it's true. It's just the way our brains work. Okay, it's stupid. I think the IQ tests are stupid. But that's just my opinion. I think intelligence has a lot more to do with a stupid test. But I narrowly escaped what I realize now is the GATE program. So when I was watching this stuff, I realized that a lot of people were talking about they focus on people who had near death experiences when they were young. Most of them were drowning. And y'all, I honestly, cuz I want to know if this happened to any of y'all who ever watched this video. I was about 5 years old, and I was being babysat by somebody who had a pool. My parents weren't around. I remember I could not swim at that time, and I was on a floaty, and the woman who was watching me was standing there at the she wasn't in the pool, she was outside the pool, and she got a phone call. Typical whatever. I don't even know what happened, how I managed to fall off the float, but I did. I turned the float over and I was in the water and I could not swim, and it was over my head. And I just remember, like, there was a wooden fence around it, and I managed to flop my way over to I was so small that my fingers would stick in between the cracks of the wood fence, and I managed to stick my fingers up enough and pull myself up by the fingers through the wood cracks that I could keep my nose above water and breathe. And so, of course, when she got off the phone and she comes back and she doesn't see me on the float, she panics and she runs out there and she's just like, oh my God. And, I was fine. I could have drowned, probably should have drowned. I remember thinking when I flipped over that I was going to die. I just, knew. And so I fought with everything in me. I don't. And so when they started talking about they were looking for kids for the gifted program that had nearly drowned as a kid. I was like, that's so weird. I don't know what that has to I don't understand it. But that definitely happened to me, and I narrowly escaped the GATE program only because I flat out refused to do it. I'm like, no, 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 and no. And they even sent a note home to my parents. Yeah, your child has been chosen. Basically, talked them into it, and I told my mom, no, no, not gonna do it. But I wonder because so many of these things, and I may do a whole live segment on it, but tell me how many of you all were almost or were you in the GATE program? Because I just watched a video kind of like that with the well, let me show you one more, and I'll tell you what I'm talking about because this is really unnerving to me, y'all. I'm like I'm having a time here, and I'll tell you why in a second.
Everyone talks about the GATE program like it was just for the gifted kids. But what if I told you it wasn't about being smart, it was about being selected? So just think back. Some kids, they were pulled for advanced learning. Others, they were pulled for mysterious medical tests. Fluoride tablets, hearing tests, pink liquids, random IQ exams, in trailers, some. You ever ask yourself, why is it always the same kids? They were not measuring intelligence. They were measuring frequency. Your blood, your brain waves. Who was vibrating differently from the rest? Who couldn't be programmed easily? That's what they were looking for. The GATE program, it shows up in the same timelines as MK experiments, Cold War psychic research, and frequency studies. It's there. Why? Because they needed to know which kids could access higher consciousness and which kids carried bloodlines they couldn't duplicate. Some got advanced curriculum, some got constant testing, some got tracked their entire lives. That's why so many of you say, I felt watched since I was a kid. It's not paranoia. It's the residue of a system that tagged you. You ever notice how gay kids, they often end up in government jobs, military, or tech fields? They were grooming you for roles. And the rest, they push to the margins to see if you break the system from the outside. Or was it really about gifted education or identifying souls they couldn't control? If you were in gay or tag, or even if you were just tested, drop your story. Watch how many of us had the exact same coincidence. Just saying.
Okay, a lot of that threw me because I resonated with what she was saying. Um, I was tested a lot. I was, um, you know, especially in that particular school system, they would give us days of testing and different people were called out at different times. Like we didn't all go together. And so I don't know who was being tested with what. I remember taking hearing tests a lot. I remember doing like codes and like that paperwork. And so when I was looking at another video of somebody showing some things that she had done, some paperwork she still had from the GATE program, y'all, I know this sounds crazy and it's like woo woo, whatever. Come at me if you want to, but I'm just sharing my story with you. I was sitting here, and this is like 15, 20 minutes ago before I started this video. I had to stop watching because I got physically sick. Like my stomach started rolling. I got nauseous. I started having heart palpitations and I felt like I was going to throw up. Um, Almost like I was having a panic attack. And I'm like, why? And the papers that she was showing were not like it wasn't scary. It was just codes. It was just schoolwork. But it was there's something in that triggered me to make that makes me wonder, even though I refused to go into the gifted and talented, was I still tracked? These things that, and so many people say they don't have memories of things, and then like something triggers, and I'm like, oh my god. Yeah. So I'm just saying, if you were ever part of that if you were ever tested, ever part of the gate, or later on it was called something else. If you have any memories like this, please let me know. Comment below. I'm going to research some more of this because I really never knew. Okay. And I now I want to know, what does drowning have to do with it? And what was the real purpose? And what do we do? Those of us who are like just finding out, like, oh God, it makes me nauseous now just thinking about it. So anyway, there is my trauma for the day. So yeah, stay safe out there. Whatever you do, I don't know. I don't know. Just say no. Say no to everything. Stay silky, y'all. Bye bye.